Stream. We are live from downtown Mill Bay. The first one, this was assigned a while ago, and I went in and looked, and I realized it hadn't popped up on the Google Classroom, so a couple of you did it because it was shown in class. But none of you, if it wasn't there, I'm sure you haven't seen it since then. So I just made sure it was visible. It's when we did this on identifying an issue. So if you could do that now for prep, activity 1-7, it's a little old. But trying to identify if someone is staying on the issue or they're trying to confuse the issue and bring up something else. Also, just a heads up, we're getting near the end. Now, the first section is the largest, combining the intro to ethics and the intro to chapter 1. I do together, and it makes it quite large. After this, we'll switch. We'll go like ethics for a bit, and then we'll completely switch and go logic for a bit. But we're coming up to the first test at some point. So first chapter test in the next week or two, just to give you a heads up. Yes. Yeah. So but when I set it, we'll go over it and what will be on it and what it will look like. Some part of the logic sections will look a lot like these types of questions. The ethics sections will have more writing to them. Yes. You definitely have to know definitions of words. Mostly, a little bit like any particular area, it's hard to discuss something if you have to spend an entire paragraph talking about what you mean. And so a lot of these brand new words allow us to discuss it a little bit better. So you should be keeping a, as I've been bringing up a lot of new terms. I'm just going back to see if there are some new terms. So, well, we got a definition for an argument and what a premise is and what a conclusion is. And then now in biases, we're going to add a few more biases to it as well and do a little task with that. We are still on bias because that's both in ethics and logic. So we did that. We discussed that. We're way, hold it, where is it here? There we are. Okay. Just have a piece of paper out or a digital piece of paper. Click and come on. Why didn't you go over? Click. This is only 3 minutes. And what I would like you to do, note any words, phrases, or ideas that help explain why it's so difficult to correct misinformation. And as you listen, and you can also reflect on what we've already learned, what are some of the reasons people create and share what turns out to be rumor or misinformation? Later, for prep. In terms of some of the reasons, I remember being at the very beginning of a rumor chain when I was in middle school, grade 8. A friend of ours didn't show up to school, and we joked that, you know, he had probably been downtown doing something particularly unsavory, and made that comment and then went off to class. By the end of the day, people were telling us that they knew someone who saw him running from the cops in the middle of downtown Courtney up Island, and that he was definitely in jail, and that his parents were very concerned, like they didn't know where he was for a while, and now he's in jail and they're having to go there. There's this huge rumor. Apparently we started it with that offhand statement, went around the entire school. He showed up the next day to school like, I was sick. What's going on? And that rumor contained a lot of elements of why you'd want to spread the rumor. Why would you want to spread that rumor? That's something interesting to talk about. But what makes that interesting to talk about? Yeah. Danger, suspense, a little bit of movie. It's controversial. because we said he was doing mushrooms specifically. Up island, I grew up in what was called the magic mushroom capital of the world, because in Black Creek, Courtney area, when I was growing up, we would have to chase the hippies out of our field because they'd come in and trample everything trying to pick the magic mushrooms. I met someone in university who was from the UK. They didn't know anything about Canada, but they knew where I lived because they had been there in the 60s. That has nothing, I don't even know why I told you that. It has no bearing on anything here. So there's particular reasons why some rumors spread faster than in others. Bad. Anyway, we'll start with this. Make sure the sound is still working.
For 82 weeks, Caitlin Dewey wrote a column for the Washington Post called "What Was Fake on the Internet This Week." Now she's decided that format wasn't working, and she's here to explain why. Welcome to the show.
Hi Ari, how are you?
I'm good. So, how has the internet changed since you started this column in May of 2014?
Well, it seems to me like it's changed in two main ways. The first is that there's
Just to give context, this was published in 2015. The changes they are talking about, I would suggest, are probably have been even more exaggerated since then. But because they're not talking about the internet today, they're talking about the internet like 6 years ago.
there's been sort of this industrialization of the hoax news industry, meaning that
Or to put it another way, Trump hasn't been president yet.
a lot of news sites now exist that do nothing but publish fake news for the traffic and the ad revenue.
So people are just making money off fake news and hoaxes.
Exactly. There's been just like a proliferation of that sort of site that didn't really exist when I started the column. The other thing that's happened, in some ways sort of more troubling, is that where fake news just used to be sort of ridiculous or sensational, anything to make people click, it now tends to have more of a partisan edge to it. It seems aimed to exploit people's biases or prejudices or pre-existing views. And we're finding that that's something that's a little harder to combat in the format of a weekly column.
Are you saying that if you debunk something that confirms people's prejudices, they're more likely to believe the fake thing that confirms their prejudices than they are the column debunking it?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm not the only one who's found that. There's actually been a great deal of research to that effect too. So within these very siloed communities, they tend to believe in a conspiracy or misinformation more when it is debunked than they did before. So it's troubling and it's difficult for us to figure out sort of how to address those issues.
Can you give me a recent example of perhaps something that you debunked in a column that had traction anyway because it confirmed what people wanted to believe?
Yeah, absolutely. There was one just last week. A Facebook user showed a photo of a protest at an Islamic education center in Dearborn, Michigan, and he claimed that it was a photo of a pro-ISIS protest. In fact, it was from a peace rally that Islamic center holds every year. And even though we were able to very clearly document that that's what it was, that it happened every year, that it had been covered in the local paper and things like that, that photo still continued to spread on Facebook with this misinformation that it was a pro-ISIS rally. And you know, when you have such clear news coverage and documentation that that's not what it is, I mean, it's hard to say how the rumor circulates anyway.
If journalists like you just give up on trying to demonstrate that these stories are false, haven't we really lost something valuable as a society?
Absolutely, but rest assured we are not giving up. We are stopping the weekly column because it just seems to be ineffective and ill-suited to the current internet landscape. But we are definitely looking at different, more creative and more aggressive ways to deal with this viral misinformation, and hopefully we'll come up with something new soon.
But it doesn't sound like you're super optimistic about getting that spiral under control.
No, I'm definitely not optimistic, but I mean, obviously one of the core functions of journalism is to correct misinformation. So regardless of what the atmosphere is like online, I think we have to continue persevering and hopefully innovating ways to stop this spiral, even if it does seem sort of futile.
Caitlin Dewey is the digital culture critic at the Washington Post, and until last week, she was the author of What Was Fake on the Internet This Week. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And now, more from NPR.
No more. Stop it.
Live from
Oh, they're about to give us a newscast. Okay. This is not a graded thing. What I would like from you, and I'm going to post this in just 1 second, so ungraded, it'll pop up. 3 things from the last 3 days that you've learned. 2 questions you still have about how bias is transferred, and 1 aspect you enjoyed. So on a separate piece of digital paper. Yes. Yoga. But if no yoga, then this class. Yes. Yeah, just reflecting now. Sorry. And also, of course, for the days that you missed, you talked to someone in class, got their notes, and caught up, right? You're not supposed to admit no. You then quickly go, oh yeah, of course, and then you run away and do that. It's an essential part of surviving with imposter syndrome and faking your way through to other things. Yeah. Yeah. Full sentences. And I say that, I used to not say that. I used to say bullet points are fine. And the reason I say that is every time I talk to university professors, whether it's chemistry or physics, I tend to talk to the science ones when I poke my head into labs. The number one thing they want students to be able to do is not that I teach the chemistry or whatever better, but that the students know how to communicate and they write in a full paragraph with full sentences that has a point. One seemed particularly upset that sometimes you get paragraphs that don't have a point. I would like to see some examples of those. Do you have to explain? Yep. Oh, okay. I'm going to answer this in 2 ways. Number 1, it's unmarked. So you don't have to do anything. If you're worried, like, am I going to mark you off for 3 things? The other one is someone reading that going to understand your point? So do you think the 3 examples would add to everything else that you're writing and that would make it clear? Or do you think you should probably include the examples in order to communicate that across? Because I haven't read your whole little thing yet. So the answer would be if you think it needs to be. Nope. Oh, never mind. attendance. Science and ethics. Hold it. Okay, we've got Abigail and Cassidy and Charlie and yes? I'm just going through attendance. Jonathan. Oh, hold it. I should also check. I should bring up the attendance to make sure I know who's not supposed to be here. Nicholas is not supposed to be here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Excellent. There, I think it's those. Okay. And I'm just going to check in. Nicholas isn't here. So I'm just waiting for Tatum. No, I'm waiting for, as in handing in the assignment. Yeah. Lucia, Cassidy, Abigail. Nope. Lies. Pardon? Then it's not turned in yet. No. Michael and Jonathan. No, I don't see it. Did you literally just press the button? What? Oh, it seems to have loaded down. done. You are still working. You're just starting. Hold it. Tatum, Lucia, Cassidy, and Michael. Got yours in now. Now just Lucia, Cassidy, Michael. You're just finished? Okay. I'll hold it. No, we got junk. Excellent. Almost there, Michael. Okay. Michael, can you take out the headphones? Shouldn't have headphones in class. Now the next section. Thank you, Michael. Okay. We're going to continue on with biases. Put away your computers. Pull out your notes. This class ends in 45 minutes. So in the last 15 minutes, I'm going to have another reflection that we'll do, but we'll continue on. So stop me at 11:30 or just before. Where's my mouse? There it is. Because we've been talking about belief bias, came up with another example. And I just wanted to give an example in which you can see that it happens to everybody, regardless of whether you're on the side of truth, justice, and the Canadian way. Although apparently I heard that they changed Superman's slogan. It used to be truth, justice, and the American way. And now it's truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. And so on a particular issue, and I picked transgender surgery because I could find lots of stuff that people are arguing about it online. There are pro and anti discussions. Now, I don't want to say that there are two sides to this. I've deliberately picked an issue where there is clearly medically a right side. Medically, reassignment surgery is necessary for some transgender people, not all transgender people. It is absolutely not in doubt from a medical perspective. But in discussions by regular people who aren't medical people online, they will completely discount any report of a trans person who regrets their surgery. And you can find those. Those are real people. And when you completely discount them, they are falling prey to belief bias. Because I believe it is good, it must always be good in every single case. And that is an example of a belief bias, where you assume that your side, nothing ever goes wrong. And it's surgery. Surgery has errors. Surgery has medical malpractice. Surgery has things that can go wrong. There will always be people who regret their surgery no matter how necessary the surgery is. People who have a limb removed because it was necessary to save their life will regret the surgery. So discounting these doesn't help the argument. It doesn't help you communicate with the other side. If your purpose is to communicate. Now, of course, anti-LGBT people, you can find these. They're a dime a dozen on any site that allows discourse, and I use that term loosely. Greatly exaggerate any kind of regret that they find. This is not a true headline. This is an example of misinformation. And you can see it as the previous one we were talking about. There's now people who make money off of misinformation because misinformation generates clicks. Clicks helps advertising revenue. And so if you can give misinformation that people want to hear, they'll come to your site to hear anti-LGBT, anti-this, anti-that, and get angry and click, 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 click. And then you're essentially selling all the advertising to the eyeballs that you can get there. And so now they've commodified misinformation. Whereas the most that was commodified before would be something like Weekly World News, where man-bat person kidnaps small child, and a very obvious Photoshop picture went onto a newspaper, and they sold a few of those. Neither of these views is helpful. There's a low list of regret in terms of practical. Any surgery can have complications. Exaggerating risk in either direction to help your side is at the expense of truth. And if you're at the truth, then if you're helping someone or are someone, you want to know all of the truth. And all of the truth includes the risks. Vaccines, even the COVID vaccine, there are people who have gotten the COVID vaccine and they have died because they had an allergic reaction they weren't aware of. That is a real risk. It is an incredibly low risk. And one of the problems is humans aren't good at evaluating risk. But it does happen. Discounting it entirely just lends fire to the fuel of your opponents who say, well, you're denying real things that happen. Taking those things and exaggerating them, making the risk seem even larger than it is the other side of the same coin. So belief bias. Everything that your friends say, or everything that your side says, or everything that your political group says must be right. And it must be this, and this is not notes or something I got from somewhere else. Just I assume this must be the reason why political parties must. It seems that once someone joins strongly and makes it part of their identity, that political group, their beliefs all switch to everything in the political group. Because I believe in them in these areas, I must also believe in them in all these other areas. And slowly over time, their beliefs shift. I think the most obvious example of that I saw. How many of you are from Alberta? Okay, this is not to slam on Albertans in any way at all. My brother moved to Alberta, and while he was there, his political beliefs completely changed. And then when he moved back to BC over a couple years, they all changed back. It was weird. And I'm not saying what those beliefs were, but just having different people around you, ascribing to certain people. Those are good people. They believe different things, and their beliefs completely trained. You are your friends in many ways. Peer pressure is a real thing. Brentwood College School has basically weaponized peer pressure. We deliberately use it. It is a thing that we do. You are all wearing the same clothes. And you are all trying to attain the same goal. What's your goal? Graduate. Not just graduate. If you just want to graduate, you can go to the local high school. And probably with a lot less effort. Pardon? Academic colors are there, but they're not the reason. They're there as a little candy. Yeah, go to the good post-secondary institution of your choice. And because of that, and everybody has the same goal, you look around you and you see other people with the same goal, and they're studying and they're going for colors, and there's all these little things that are there to get everybody. Everybody talks about peer pressure being a bad thing, I think, when we talk to you about things like when we talk to you about like drugs or drinking, but it's everything. If people around you have good habits, your habits will improve. If you want to get smarter, it's probably a bad way to put it. But if you're the smartest one in your group, you need to find smarter friends. Extend your friend group. Have other friends that pose problems that are more difficult for you. And you'll find that your abilities go up. You adopt the habits of the people around you. Or you get them to do your homework. That's fair too. Actually, that's actually a technique that's taught to teachers. Like, you get some students to help not do their homework, but obviously to help the other students. And the purpose is not necessarily to help the students that are weak in that particular area. It's also to help the students that are providing the help. Because it's found over and over again, when you try and teach someone to something else, the major benefit goes to the person doing the teaching. So if you're like kind of good at a subject, but not great, but enough that you could help someone, when you tutor someone else, you get the most benefit out of that learning, provided it's not something you know so well it's by rote. If it's a little difficult for you, the act of teaching it will actually improve you. A lot of gifted programs include tutoring as part of it for that reason. Okay, what was this one? I regret the loss of his Twitter account so much. It provided so much fuel for so long. And now I click on it and says this account has been permanently suspended, and I am so sad. As a Canadian, I was so happy when he was elected because it provided so much entertainment. It was great. Great. Well, yeah. So we just try and keep that down the border. It's down there. All I really know about Americans is that they have guns, and then they have a second gun. No, that's all I know. All I know is from movies and TV shows, they have guns and no health care. That's the other one. None whatsoever. No Kinder eggs. No, you don't. And you open them up and there's a toy inside? It's illegal. It's federally illegal. Oh, that's not a true Kinder egg. That's not a true Kinder egg. You have fake Kinder eggs. Yeah. I should bring Kinder eggs one day, and I'll let you. Yeah, and no Smarties. Well, their Smarties are rockets. They're weird, crumbly things. Yeah. Well, the reason for all of these things is that there's trademark stuff, and Canada got a lot of the candies from the UK, and the US, they apparently had a disagreement with the UK and made their own candy companies. There was like a war, and they threw a bunch of tea somewhere. And so Smarties have existed for a long time, but in the States, someone got the copyright ages ago, so they can't sell them as that. And then they came up with M&Ms, which are like an inferior Smartie. Yeah, no, I'm good. Yeah, good enough. We should stop dumping on Americans. I like how it mentioned candy, and we are into favorites like that. You are your friends. I just like this comparison. These are from two different dates, 2014 versus 2016. While Putin is scheming and beaming on how to take over the world, President Obama is watching March Madness. Putin bad. 2 years later, great move on delay by Vladimir Putin. I always knew he was very smart. Thank you to the LGBTQ community. I will fight for you while Hillary brings in more people that will threaten your freedoms and beliefs. After consultation with my generals and military experts, please be advised the United States government will not accept or allow transgender individuals to serve in any capacity in the U.S. military. This is, by the way, against the advice of his military leaders, because they had a lot of current soldiers that they would have to get rid of, that they spent a lot of time and money training and were incredibly useful. And he went on and on and on. This Sarah Sanders, going back a little ways, was referring to Clinton when she said, when you're attacking FBI agents because you're under criminal investigation, you're losing. Donald Trump started attacking the FBI. She was his spokesperson, going back a little bit. And all of these can be, it was to the point there was a website that just compared old president to current president and just had, for every tweet, they had an old tweet in which he said the opposite thing. And that is true of all politicians. There's the thing where they say, well, they keep flip-flopping, they say opposite things. People can change their minds. Maybe he changed their mind. But when there's a sheer number of them, a one that I remember quite strongly beforehand was the attack on Obama for golfing and costing the taxpayers. And I think Trump cost the taxpayers, can't remember, it was an obscenely large number, like 23 times any other president before, in terms of the amount, how much his golf cost. Yes, and he also went to his own golf courses, so the government was paying him. Whereas Obama would go to a golf course, he didn't own it, and he would often go to military golf courses. And you're like, well, why would he do a military one? Well, security is cheaper because it's on a military base, and so they already have security, and then they don't have to pay as much. And it's free, so he didn't have to pay someone, so it actually cost the taxpayers a lot less. And so watching people go through the mental things of, well, that's okay then, not now, when you have example over example, has always been interesting. Also, I only picked this, not because it's Trump, and it's easy, which is, yes, of course. But Canada generates far less social media, and it's not as easy to get. Trudeau has some. They just don't got plastered around. Canadians are very polite. We try to keep our secrets and our dark past, like, we just don't talk about them and put them on things. Oh, yes. Well, that made the news. That was, yeah. And then for the recent holiday, in which he decided to go to Fino. Yeah. 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 And he didn't go. Yeah. Yeah. And this is one where you can find some of the things, because there was an older one in which there was a Remembrance Day ceremony. It was I remember it because they Trump didn't attend at all, and then they would show leaders from around the world. It's Remembrance Day in Canada. It was pouring rain. Trump was like drenched. Not Trump. Trudeau. And he stood there for ages just being drenched. while the ceremony is going place. And I think the conservative leader in Canada didn't show up, and there was a lot of liberal attack on the conservative. Why aren't you showing up for this? And then you transport that to now with him not with ignoring the newest one, and the same people who were attacking the conservative leader are now attacking, who are defending Trudeau for essentially the exact same action. You were ignoring a day for a particular purpose. You really should have taken your holiday at a different time. Okay, I probably have to turn off the sound for this, because otherwise I'll get Although when I was taking my degree in chemistry and biochemistry, you may have met my spouse, Ms. Handley, works in the library. She's the technical librarian. She's usually in the little glass office. Oh, nice, good. Yeah, she's a very nice person. Yeah. She has a degree in both anthropology and psychology. And I would attend her classes for fun. But that's all. Yes. Then don't even worry about it. Maybe you've just read too much New York Times. No, because you don't have to use that example. You can look at the cartoon, write about that, or you can come up with a personal example. I will see if I can find a similar thing. Is everybody not able to access the New York Times? I thought it was just me. Oh, well done. Excellent.